say not yet.
Beal. Councilwoman Bettina.
Here.
Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Thursday.
Here, everyone please rise. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. As to the agenda, there's only one
Excuse me.
change, and that was to delete the item number 6, the Hometown Heroes.
Yeah.
Since nobody will be here tonight for it. So
Okay.
that's the only things that I have.
I'll make a motion that we remove item number 6 under discussion, and then, once we do that, then I'll make a motion to approve the new agenda.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
I'll
Next
make-
up,
go ahead.
go ahead.
So we need to make a motion to
Yeah.
approve, right? So I'll make a motion now to approve the updated agenda, which removed item 6 from discussion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is a motion to acknowledge the minutes of October 10, 2023.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second, accept the minutes, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is with respect to two public hearings. The first one is need a motion to open a public hearing for the special district benefit assessments for 2024.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second, open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. If anybody has any comments from the public, then please come up to the podium.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion to close the public hearing
Mr.
passes.
Supervisor, just one question
Yeah.
on that. Were there any written complaints received? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we haven't received. Okay, next item is Resolution 2023-138, resolution adopting the final benefit assessment rolls for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2024.
And that was Mike's presentation from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Yep.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is to open public hearing to hear objections to capital budgets, O&M charges, and water and sewer rates for 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Again, this is what Mike had presented previously. So anybody have any comments?
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion second, close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is Resolution 2023-139, resolution adopting the capital budgets, O&M charges, and water and sewer rates and rents for special districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2024. Do I
I'll
have a
make
motion?
that motion.
Can we see a year-to-year comparison of the rates? Because typically, Frederick, we put together year-to-year rates, so can we see what they look like? 23 versus 24?
So, we haven't put up the rates because, usually the rates are changed in March or following year, so the rates that are in existence right now in 2023 are going to continue until the end of March. So we're gonna have a committee to discuss whether we need to increase the rates or reduce them, whatever, stay the same, depending on the budget that is adopted right now.
So we don't need to do an analysis today that says whether we're over or under in the funds? We should take a look at that.
Yes, we will do that at the end of the year when we have all the information coming with the revenue and expenditure. And we'll have that meeting that we had this year, determine the rates, and then that is when we decide whether to change the rates or not.
Okay. Any other questions, sir?
No.
Okay. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is the public portion of the meeting. Do I have a motion to open the public portion of the meeting?
Make a motion to open the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Motion and second to open the public portion of the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. So if anyone has any comments with respect to any of the other agenda items that are on the agenda tonight, please come on up.
Hi,
Hello.
Marcy Wagman, Old Troy Road. I just have a series of questions that don't need to be answered right now, but on Resolution 2023-140, the resolution approving stipulation of settlement. So I'm not a lawyer, and I may be missing some of the nuances and the details of the settlement that was attached. But I've got a pretty good attendance record here, and I've attended the planning board meetings as well, and I haven't heard of this issue, why would we require a settlement up until this point? So I have a series of questions that when the town board comes to this point of the agenda, that hopefully will be answered or thought about. So the number one is, what is this stipulation of settlement in response to? I can kind of infer that some kind of suit or action was made against the town, but I don't know what it is, and it hasn't been made public. And I think the public deserves to understand what that action was and what this is in response to. I don't understand, again, as a non-lawyer, does this agreement circumvent the planning board's decision process? There seems to be some assumptions made in here that I would have thought that the planning board would be responsible for as part of their ongoing processes, and I'd like to understand how the planning board was involved in reaching this settlement. And, corresponding with that, a lot of the planning boards, especially because when Downey was last in front of the planning board, it was for a public scoping session, and it's as part of the secret process, because it's a positive declaration, is my understanding that there's a lot of public involvement in a positive declaration going through the secret process. So what's the public's involvement as a result of this settlement? How do they get engaged? How do they get informed? How are things changed as a result of this? And I also would like to understand, again, not for right now, but as part of the discussion, what is the process for determining a settlement on behalf of town residents? The attorney signs it, the town board signs it. Who gets to review this, and how does that process happen? Because it's a signed settlement is what I saw was attached to this resolution and what was published in the agenda. So this is just not looking like a great open government kind of response, and it looks kind of like a sidestep to kind of say, ooh, the courts are forcing us to make a decision that perhaps we as residents really don't want to make. So those are my questions. Hopefully, as part of the discussion, you'll review some of that later in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, comments on any part of the agenda?
Make a motion to close the public session.
Motion
Public
second
portion, please.
to close the public portion of the meeting. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item are the budget discussions. So the first item is the Justice Court. Nobody here tonight? Okay, so we'll pass on. Maybe it'll be late. Jerry, on animal control, please.
Good evening.
Hi,
Good
Jerry.
evening.
How's everybody doing? Thank you.
Here's Heather.
Oh, yeah, there's Heather. Okay.
So we start with line 100A. That we're gonna do it every line?
Just give us the first four if you got them. Do the first
The
four
first four numbers.
prior to 100.
Oh, 3510,
3510, you said?
yeah.
Thank you. There it is.
Okay, go ahead, Darren.
So I guess the 100A is my salary. Looks like it's pretty much the same, a little higher than it was in 2023. It's always nice to get a little something. You, is there any more discussion on that line?
Well, I
Do you
think-
wanna move on, or?
I mean, if you have any major changes or major needs, otherwise, just
I don't-
summarize,
no,
perhaps
I'm-
summarize your activities for the board and for the town residents.
So
Yeah,
just
I mean-
real quick on the salary line, so, was that a 3% increase that was
I
applied?
believe that.
3 and a
Robert's
quarter.
applied.
3 1/4, I think
Three
we're
and a
looking at, Bill.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, anyway, in case you guys don't know, I'm on call 24/7. I uphold all the dog laws of the town, 68.9. I respond to emergencies, I take calls, I respond to emails, and mostly I uphold, like I said, all the violations that we have.
So Jerry, if you look at 23 budget versus 24, it looks like everything stayed flat year to year except for your salary. So unless there's any other updates you want to make to that, it looks like everything else has stayed the
No,
same.
I looked at it pretty quickly. I don't see anything that's really, that stands out. Everything else should be fine. I'm not a needy guy.
Now, you seem to be underrunning your budget a little bit this year, but, you know, the 6,800 for all the other activity here is minimal, and again, it's flat from 2023, so I don't have any issues with it.
No, I'm happy with these numbers if you guys are.
Jerry, what's the process now for the village of Wappingers when they have a dog on the loose on this side
They
of?
call me.
They call you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's,
It's been the same, though. That
Okay.
has never changed,
okay.
pretty much.
All
The
right.
thing that has changed is, is my support into Poughkeepsie if there's nobody available. It's just a faster response time. It's like, you guys have a word for it too, mutual
Mutual aid, right.
mutual aid, exactly.
So town of Poughkeepsie, they do have a animal control officer or a dog warden
No,
or no?
they're in hiring right now.
Oh, they are, okay. So you're assisting with their needs on that side of the bridge?
If I'm available, the police are mostly covering that, because their ACO will work directly in the police department.
Right,
So
okay.
the cops will handle it, probably like they do in Beacon.
Okay, got it, all right. So I just want to make sure that the village was continuing to receive your,
No, they've been good, and like I said, if I can offer help for them, I'm there for them too.
very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Jerry. Judge Kitchen? Come on up. Good evening.
1110.
11:10. Okay.
Go ahead.
What would
Okay.
you like to know?
So other than salary, it looks like you have a court attendant you want to do now? Is that correct?
A court attendant that what?
It looks like you want to add it into as far as your department? You want to add $7,000 in year to year for a court attendant?
You talking
Two.
about the armed officers or the newly
107 line, so 1110, 107A
107?
is a $7,000 input.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Dean is, though. Chris put that in there. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have another court attendant, because our armed officers end up doing things that probably are a bit above, well, not above, but probably not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be guarding us and whatever clients are in the audience, not moving files around, so that's probably what that's for.
Heather, what's the difference between a court officer.
And court attendant?
Yeah.
Court officers carry weapons.
Oh.
We used to use the sheriff's department a long time ago. Now we use the Office of Court Administration. We use the same guys that are in county court and family court and Supreme Court. They're specifically trained to provide security, so it's much better. Since we changed that, the security has been, it's improved like 300%, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a few things that have increased, like Westlaw's has gone up. Interpreters, that's probably one of our bigger line items because we have a lot more Spanish-speaking clients than we used to have, so we have a lot more interpreter services needed. Other than that, it's standard salary increases.
Looks like training's up a little bit, too. Training is up a little bit.
Training?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, it's probably whatever the cost is per the most recent, for the February Association of Towns, I would assume. Actually, training says no change. You're talking about 411?
From last year, so it's 4,500 this year, goes to
Oh, you know why?
7,500.
Because they didn't, we can go to the Association of Towns this year, we couldn't go last year. So that's probably
Okay.
the change. Though Chris put no change. Let me look.
And not to be picky, but telephone on here, line 414, you go from $100 in '23 to 2,000 in '24.
You talking about Westlaw?
No, telephone,
401, oh, telephone.
414.
414.
Yeah.
Oh, she said telephone, no change. Hang on, let me look, see what she did.
I'm looking at a year-to-year, Heather. $100 in '23 and 2,000 in '24.
Yeah, I don't know if those modified numbers are accurate.
Yeah, I don't even
The
know what
adopted
modified
number?
2023 would be, because it's always $2,000.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking at the
that's-
adopted number versus the tentative number.
Well, I'm looking even at the actuals of '22, nothing. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, because adopted in 2022 was 2,000, modified in 2022, 2,000, adopted 2023, 2,000.
Again,
Yeah.
small
We're asking
dollars.
for 2,000, so it's the same.
The year-to-date, though, yeah, $50.70.
Year-to-date, if that's right, it's only $50.70.
How is it being
That
charged?
doesn't even
It's weird.
make sense.
Can only go by what our controller gives us.
Right, yeah. I don't know what that $50, I mean, it's a monthly, I would assume it's a monthly telephone bill.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Just back to the 1110-106A, Your Honor, the armed court officer
Yes.
line, that is the amount to fund one individual, or is that to fund the number of court officers that we,
Are you talking about 106?
106, yeah?
106, yeah.
That is, that's basically what we have now with a 10% increase.
So that pays for the New York State Uniformed Court Officers?
The
Is that-
OCA guys,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, okay. Yeah, we made that change, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago,
Yeah,
from the
it's a big
sheriff's
deal.
office
Yep.
to the court officers, which saved us money in the courts, and we were able to reapply the deputy sheriffs to the streets, which
There you go.
we felt that was positive value, which it still is today.
Yep,
So-
probably, it definitely is.
Yeah, it definitely works well. The court attendant is an employee that's part-time, is that correct?
Correct. That, the court attendant would just be here during court sessions, either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Probably more likely just for the criminal calendars, because that's really when we need them, Wednesdays and Thursdays, so.
So I really don't see any major changes here at all.
No. Except for the salary line, which we've got to talk about, right?
Yeah, the salary line we'll talk about.
And everybody's a change, not just
Yeah,
yours.
We're going to discuss a uniform approach to that. But I mean, you know, we're post-COVID now, Your Honor, and obviously COVID was a very challenging time for the courts. And I'll say this myself, you don't have to agree or disagree, but the bail changes, we'll say bail reform attempts within New York State have been a challenge for the courts as well. We don't look at any income from the courts as revenue. However, we do have operational expenses that we continue to try to balance. So we appreciate the fact that you're able to be as conservative as possible here during this uncertain time of legislative changes at the state level that are affecting the
Right.
income.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like 103, 4, and 5 are all union contracts, employees. So whatever raises in there is pursuant to the contract. So really, the other salaries that are discretionary are obviously my salary, Judge Wilson's salary, and then our chief clerk's salary, so.
Yeah, those should be adjusted already in the budget for the union obligation. Correct, Supervisor?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's not even an issue, I wouldn't think, so.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't have anything further, and yes, I am getting text messages because the time has come.
All right.
Time has come.
Okay.
It was bound to happen. I can't see the numbers.
Okay.
Welcome to the
And
club.
it doesn't get any better.
The moment has arrived.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't need them.
Well, you're not even looking at the numbers. No, I was kidding.
I'm the one that looks at the numbers.
Yeah, right, two at once.
Anybody else have any other questions?
No.
For Judge Kitchen?
All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You know where to find us if you do.
Yep.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, Leanne? Hello.
My budget is also pretty straightforward. I'm going to jump down to line 1330201A. I've added $500 for a new printer. The taxware collection software, line 400-A. I put in 4942. That's an estimate. I haven't received an invoice from them yet for 2024, but the increase is based on a similar increase from the previous year. For postage on 401A, I had put $12,000, but I'm asking to increase that to $1,300, only because January 1st, we have another increase.
13,000?
13,000,
There you
yes,
go.
sorry. And just by way of information, the school district does reimburse us for their portion. Last year was $5,500.
Oh, they reimburse us for postage?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
For office supplies, there's no change. Line 404A through 407, there's currently are not being used, and 408A training is $300. Like I said, pretty straightforward.
So one thing you don't have in here is, and we were actually going to talk about it later on tonight, but that's the Insight software upgrade.
Well, yes, I do have information on that separately for the water and sewer.
Rather than keep you here later on and have you do it, why don't you just do it right now?
Sure.
Just talk about it right now.
Okay. So this is a copy of the literature from Neptune. This is regarding our radio read billing software for computers. Councilman Casella and I met with our software company in July, and originally we thought that the program coverage was going to be discontinued December 31st, but I just received this packet this past week, and it's going to be covered until June 30th, so we have a little bit of time. Originally, Frederick and I thought that we were going to have to do a transfer, but we can budget for 2024. So basically, the software is not going to be serviced any longer, which means we won't be able to download any of our readings and then bill appropriately. We haven't been paying a yearly service fee for the program that we're currently using. Going forward with this program, there will be a yearly subscription price. So the initial cost for Thai Sales is going to be, along with Edmunds having to convert our billing software, is a total of $11,058. And all of the information is attached. Councilman Casella and I both had a conversation with Craig, who he recommended that the safe course of action is to upgrade. If something happens to the computer, we won't be able to bill.
So would you recommend putting this in your budget now? Because we're going to have to do it next year, right?
Yes, it would be in the water and sewer budget. This is
Okay.
specific to the radio read meters.
Got it.
That works.
And the computers and everything we have now is compatible with all this?
With the upgrade, it would be cloud-based, so it can be used on any computer.
Okay, good.
Any questions other than that?
No.
No.
Same discussion on the salaries we've had
Right,
with
I
everybody else,
understand.
so we're gonna take a look at
Okay.
that and come up with something that makes sense. It's across the board,
Mhm.
same.
Thank
Agreed.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Okay. Christian?
I'm 1355,
Thank you.
A fund. I think you'll find most of my budget is pretty much unchanged from the prior year. I can live with the expenses. The only thing, I always bring this up, under real estate consulting, that's obviously the money we use for outside appraisers when we have big commercial cases. We ended up getting a couple of big ones. In the same year, we might need more money there. We've been able to do it so far with that, but, if we get 3 or 4 cases that all seem to hit the court stock at the same time, and they all end up going to appraisal, those appraisals are expensive. They range anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 up to, $9,000 or $10,000. So, I don't think we've ever blown that budget line in all the years I've been here, but just to let you know. The only other lines really that would have changed would be the salary lines. So I have 2 union employees. I'm assuming that that's dealt with by the union contract. And then there's my salary. So I had sent some information. I talked with Al about it. I feel like I'm saying this every year. But there were several years in the past where, with my unique situation between Wappingers and Fishkill, where I didn't get raises, 2017, 2018, 2020, where the towns were unable to come together at some point in time and ended up with a 0% increase. I know we're trying to go with uniformity this year on what the union gets, but the union got raises in those years too, but I did not. So I've done some work as to, and one of those years too, I hate to say it, that's the year that health insurance was no longer free for employees. But everybody was told, it's okay, we're gonna give everybody a raise to make up for the difference. That was the year that I didn't get a raise. So I actually saw my salary turn around and go in the other direction, because I had to start paying for health insurance, which obviously that's a town board decision, that's fine. But the rationale was, hey, we're giving raises to everybody, but not to me. So I had done some work looking at See Through New York, at some of the other assessors. So this is the 2022 salaries, but if you take the average of what I want to call the big 4, which would be Beacon and East Fishkill is a cap assessor like me. Town of Poughkeepsie and LaGrange and Pauling ended up being assessors that have large amounts of parcels. And their average is about almost $8 a parcel. I average $6 a parcel. So if you want to look at salaries from what I make and what everybody else, all the other assessors make, I'm still below those numbers. And I had done some work, and if I had gotten a 3% raise, because, the raises build on top of each other. So, we don't usually end up getting huge raises every year. You get a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, it starts to add up. But the years that I lost out on those raises, if I only got 3%, my salary would be about $14,000 higher right now. And it's not. So these things start to build on each other when you start looking at, someday you might want to retire and you look at what your pension is going to be. I'm thinking, gee, it's not really moving all that much. That's because my salary didn't move for several years. So I
We
mean,
will
obviously-
definitely take that under consideration.
I mean, I understand if you want to do uniformity for everybody, but, there's some things in the union contract, like the union employees are going to get longevity. That might be a great thing to give to all the employees, because longevity is a great thing for the town. You have long-term employees who have been working here for a long time, they're invested in town, they know their job, they can get their job done, you want to reward them with longevity. So, just, I'm saying, there's some things in the union contract that would benefit a lot of the other employees too. I know you want to hold everybody to the same raise that the union gets, but the union's going to get even more benefits on top of that aren't going to be given to everybody. So, just a thought.
So one thing
So-
you had to take in consideration is that he's also paid by Fishkill. They've already approved their budget on the 18th.
Yeah,
So you got to, we split it 50/50, so we also make sure we take that into consideration. I think we've had that conversation,
Right.
too.
Well, and then speaking with Fishkill, they were willing, they had their budget hearings in like July, so they were way ahead of everybody else. But they were willing to discuss the salary issue, but then it just, when it came back from Wappinger said, well, we're doing 3 1/4, this is it, so that's what they budgeted. But wasn't really given a chance to get Wappingers and Fishkill together to have some type of constructive conversations about what's gonna happen. And that's, again, that's been a problem that's going on a long time. I haven't been figured out, in 17 years, I haven't figured out a way to get around that yet.
Well, we
So-
do communicate regularly, and that's an incorrect statement, Christian.
So,
well, it is a unique situation because he is a shared assessor between Fishkill and Wappinger, so there are certain obligations that fall upon each municipality. I do personally think that as we deliberate management raises, which is something we're going to be deliberating, we've talked about uniformity, as you mentioned. I think we do need to have a specific conversation about the assessor. Now, I understand that there is an obligation from both municipalities to match 50%. I don't think it's too late for the town of Fishkill to come to the table, even if they have an approved budget. I get it. I don't think that it's still beyond the time to entertain a match from each municipality. So I hear what you're saying, and I was here for those years. I understand we had unique challenges during those years. There were issues between the town of Wappinger and the town of Fishkill in previous years where we could not get to a common solution. There were variables out there, such as health benefits and things like that, that we were still working on. So you have my word that we will have this conversation as a board and deliberate on how to have a fair approach for all management employees. And I believe personally, I believe that now that we have these 2 collective bargaining agreements in place and we're continuing to expand upon the collective bargaining agreements as we discuss potentially incorporating steps and things like that, I think we owe the management staff the ability to have a management agreement also that we can agree to, which is a multi-year document that allows for management employees to understand where they'll be in 3 to 5 years. And we'll have that conversation as well.
okay. So, that's all I have. No one else
Okay,
has more questions?
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
Okay. Barbara? Thank you. Yep.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So, mine are all from the B fund. And so the first one I'm gonna do is the fire inspector, and he's in 3410. All the salaries, any increase is going to be according to the union contract. So in his budget, I have added in 3410, 198B, under the contingency payroll, $5,000, that includes longevity. Fire, 3410, 402B is for vehicle repairs. I increased that from 1,000 to 2,000. So just on a side note, all our vehicles are 2015. And so last year I had them rated from the best to the worst, and they're all in good shape, by the way. But I'm just bringing that up, that maybe going forward, you might want to think about replacing one a year as they get aged. I'm reducing 3410, 406B from 1,600 down to 200. We don't seem to use that CD for 1,600 because we have online availability. And then the last thing in fire is 3410, 411B. It's for fire training. I've increased it to 1,200. Fire inspector takes varied training classes. Any questions?
So 3410-198B, the longevity, what is that for now?
It's for longevity and some contingency in there.
So the contract has buyouts or actually yearly payments for longevity, so it could vary from 1,000 up to, $500, $1,500. But there's something that was built, and I think this year we were actually surprised that some of those hit, and that's one of the reasons why you'll see Barbara might be slightly over the budget. So we'll talk about that later because we have to do a budget transfer for that, but that's something we want to make sure that, again, as part of union contract, we want to make sure we've got it included, so it's not an add-on later on.
Okay.
So then we go to building department, it's 3620. Again, the salaries are all based on whatever the union stipulation is. So I go down to 3620-198B, contingency payroll. It's 54,660, and that's for all the longevity for all the employees in that department. And then the next page, would help it in red. So under 3620, 400B, I'm increasing it from 5784 to 8378. They've already used over 6,000, and it looks like we're going to need another cabinet. We've tried a streamline and thin out, but we've just run out of room for the grid files. The other line is 3620 402B. It's vehicle repairs. I've increased it from 3,000 to 4,000 for the same reason. 3620 406B is copier lease. I've increased it from 1,800 to 2,000. That's a contractual obligation. 3620 408B, I've reduced the training from 1,500 to 1,000. There are some classes I see coming up next year, but they haven't needed the larger number. And that's it for building in changes. Zoning board, contractual salary, and then 8010 198B is $1,000 for the longevity. And then 8010 200B is for software. You're going to see half here and half in planning, and that's for a form of Minitrack that Joe uses. It's called something different now, but we've been talking to them since the end of last year. We're trying to come up with a number that works for B in that department. And then we have 8010 402B for training, and that I've increased by $500. That includes the conference for New York. We had a lot of members last year want to attend, so we have to make sure I cover it.
That comes out, that's the planning board members also, is that correct?
Yeah, it will be when I get to that department.
Okay, so this is for
This
zoning
is
board
just
members?
Zoning
Board
only,
of
right?
Appeals.
Got it.
Okay, now we're down to zoning. Same thing with the salaries. And then 8015 199B under comp time. I put $6,000 to cover overtime for court and fire call-outs. And then 8015 198B is the contingency fund for $500 to cover the deputy zoning administrator, which is contractual with the union contract. And just speaking like what Christian said, he's right, management, we don't get the longevity that the union people do, the people that have been here.
Yeah, we need to have that conversation with respect to management employees. We've been having, discussions one-on-one through this process. As we look through the budget, we now see the collective bargaining agreements really moving into positive territory, especially now in uncertain fiscal times, right? So we want to circle back and have a discussion about management employees. At the very least, you can see reflected in the supervisor's budget, many, if not all, of the management positions have received 3.25. I think that we need to have a conversation moving forward to actually create, may not be fiscal year 23, but in 24, a management agreement so that
Sure.
managers understand that, okay, now I'm not flying blind here. I know where I'm going to be next year. Maybe I'm getting close to my 30 years and I want to see, where I'm going to be. I don't think it's fair at this point, especially during these times, to not have the ability for a manager to see a projection.
So I will correct you on one thing. There are some of the budgets in here that actually have the step raises in them already. So we need to fix that back to whatever the rate we decide we're going to do, because some people put it in, some didn't.
No, we don't have anything built
No,
in for
but
the
Yeah, we do.
speaking to that, I
step, we
did.
don't.
My original department budget was based on if the step
Yeah, but
had gone through.
That's my point. So,
So-
in her budget,
I
which is what
brought
I'm
it
looking at
back
too.
to exactly what 23 is with 3.25.
right, that's what she did.
So,
That's,
That's
yeah,
why I
so-
just handed it to you.
and what's being referred to right now is a proposal for steps, right? So we can take,
Correct.
if we have the money, we can take the funding and put it into contingency so that it's available within the department. And then if the steps are approved on both sides, union versus town board, then we can apply those at that point,
we
correct?
can do it that way. You can take it out of fund balance. Doesn't make a difference.
I'm just saying, we
Either
can
or.
earmark it in the
Yep.
budget. But that's something we can discuss offline.
Right.
Yep.
But as long as each department, and I still have to dig into some of this too, just to ensure that every department
Right.
is setting their budget the same way, right? I like how you did it. Not every department is exactly like this, but we'll get to that.
Okay, so the next one under zoning is 8015.402B, which is vehicle repairs for the zoning car. I increased that from 1,000 to 2,000.
What year are those vehicles now?
15,
Okay.
15?
so they're 8 years old.
All right, yeah, so, yeah, we need to start having that conversation.
That's why I brought it up. The last time you wound up having to supply and replace
Correct.
all 4 at a time. And I just thought maybe in capital improvements, you might want to consider one a year or something, just to keep them,
Yeah.
they're not 10 years
Right.
old.
Yeah, we should have that conversation. I mean, those were all bought at the same time because we had a significant need at that moment. Let's not get to that point again.
No.
The problem right now is buying SUVs is a real challenge. We're dealing with this at work right now. It can take a year to get one of these things. So we'll have that conversation offline, but I appreciate you speaking to it here.
Okay. Next is 8015-409 postage. I've increased it from 250 to 300. As you can see, they've already used 220, and as Leanne has brought up, postage just keeps going up. And then the last thing in zoning is 8015-412B. I've increased it from 2,000 to 2,500 because of the New York City conference, because everything just keeps going up. And then the last department is planning, which is in the 820s.
Yep.
So 820, 198B, contingency payroll, it's half of the longevity, so that number's in zoning and in planning, zoning board and planning. And then 8020, 200B, 1750's in zoning board, and 2000 is in planning for the Minitrack. They call it peak management now, but it's what Joe uses. 8020, 400, our planner has been reduced from 20 to 10,000. 8020, 404B is educational expense. It was 5,900 last year. I increased it to 7,500. Last year, we had most of the members from the planning board wanted to go, and so I don't want to be caught short.
So just for the public's awareness, in previous decades, we put a limit on the number of people to attend this, and Supervisor Gutzler can remember this, where we really were limiting who can attend, and it became a challenge now because of the mandatory training requirements that the boards have. And there's no other training opportunity that you're going to be able to satisfy your continuing education requirements on the planning board, zoning board, and anything else, code enforcement. So we have encouraged folks to attend this training to meet those standards. So we've been able to decrease some lines to find funding to better appropriate for those that are able to take time off from their day job, right? I mean, there's one holiday involved there, President's Day, but those of us that work other places have to take time off from our day job to go to this training. So I appreciate you making those changes.
I see Angela looking at what I've attached, so just if you go back to 3620, 102B, 104B, there was an MOA in May that I've attached, so I've changed the numbers in the modified, just so it makes sense with the union raise. Otherwise, the numbers wouldn't work with that.
That makes sense, you normalized it.
Right, so it makes a little more sense now.
Yep.
And that's, any questions?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Joe?
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, too bad it's like a 6-point font up there.
Okay, my budget is pretty much the same. There's no point talking about salaries because that'll probably change, I'm sure. So the mileage, 400, that just goes up with the cost of gas and the average allowable, mileage rate that the state sets. The computer supplies, and looking at our supplies, are getting down pretty low, so I've raised it to, I put another 450 in there. So it goes from 2095, departmental budget, supervised budget, to 2545, if you guys approve that. As far as the BS support fee, it's going up as a normal rate that it has been going up, 6.48%, as you can see there. And the laser fees, similar raises over the years. Dues and training, 6.67 to include any cost that might be incurred due to the cost of these trainings at the Association of Towns and other places. Everything else is flat, except for the record storage. We're due to do another
So for the minute track,
shredding that hasn't been done in a number of years since Cooper was here.
so for minute track, no increase?
Say that again?
For minute track,
No,
line 406,
No, that's,
pay? It's
you know,
still
they tried to
10,000?
get me to go to peak, but it's significantly more expensive. But the big downside is we have 17 years worth of video minutes and agendas that they don't convert, and I can't live without that. So, because we started this when I was a town board sitting over there, and I got it for Chris Matheson. It's been live ever since. But we do have video from 1998. And,
Very entertaining video from
when we
1998.
fired the planning board.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to watch.
So that's, any questions?
All good?
We're good, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Frederick?
So my department is 1315. I'll start with the top line, proposing 3.25%. That is 1315.100. 1315, 101, 102, 103, those are union. Currently, they were based on the step, but we have agreed, I think the general consensus is that it is going to be looked into again.
So for the escrow account clerk, 103A, so you went from 9,000 to 13,650. That's a pretty significant increase.
So the person who does that is, the rate is 33.55 per hour. Usually when she does that work, it's already,
So you also have the step rate charge in here according to your footnotes, correct?
yeah, there's a footnote. So
So
usually
it's probably somewhat
overtime
overinflated.
rate, yeah, so that's at overtime rate.
So you may not need the full 13,650 then?
Yes, because the step was assuming an increase from 33.55 to 35. So if we just use the 33.55 and add the 3.25%, then we're going to have 34 and some change. So we may use the $34, multiplied by 1.5, because usually it's at overtime rate. And
So
then-
again, I think as Councilman Beal said, we got to come up with a consistent methodology how we're going to do this across the board, because some do have in the department numbers here, steps, some don't.
Yeah.
And again, we just want to make sure everybody's consistent across the
Yeah.
board, and we'll talk more about it, but
We just back the steps out into contingency,
Correct.
and then we can
Yeah.
apply them once the steps take effect, but
correct.
we shouldn't, we shouldn't budget on an appropriated personnel line, a step that hasn't been approved yet.
Yep, okay.
Right. The 1315.199, we have been budgeting at 3,500. But in there, I've also included longevity for 3 people. One of them is $1,600 for the one who's going to have, who's going to be 16 years working for the town. Then there's an $800, and then the last one is 100. In addition, we have somebody who's currently earning a stipend for each work that they do, according to the memorandum of understanding. So I assumed that is going to continue for the following year. So that's where the 10,550 came from. Moving on to equipment, I have no need to buy any equipment next year. And then lastly, the contractual, 1315.400 all the way to 407. The one that I wanted to point out is the paycheck time in a box. So we are currently being charged $150 for each of the clock-in machines, so $450 a month. And then my assumption is that at some point we may go back to the weekly payroll based on, some of the contracts that we signed. So that's why there's a slight increase there from, if you look at the budget of 2023, 20,000 to 24, 23,000. The other line, 406, I decided to decrease it because if you look at 2022, we only spent 8,000. So in the past, we used to charge everything on this line, including the maintenance because it's a software by one company, but there's finance on it, there's utility billing. So going for the last year or so, we have been allocating the utility billing to water and sewer. So that's why there's a reduction for 2024 in that instead of budgeting for 16,000, we're only going to ask for 8,000.
So are we still waiting for a lot of bills to come in for that one? Because you've only got 3577 so far, year-to-date
Yes.
September.
Right. So the bill normally comes around December.
So you think it's going to be close to 2022, because 2022 is about $8,000?
Yes. I don't
Okay.
think we'll be going more than 8,000 for the year.
Okay.
And then the last one is the training, which I have left the way it is. When we go to the Association of Towns, there's the registration fee, there's the hotel room, then there's the per diem, depending on the number of people that go. So if 2 people go there, then we are likely to spend about that amount of money. So that concludes the accounting department.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Frederick, did you want to talk about the other item you discussed with me today, or not?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next item is Supervisor and Town Board. As I've discussed with Bill, and consistent with what we're talking about, the main difference is on compensation, but we'll be looking at the overall approach to compensation, as Bill and I have agreed. So everything else is just based on actual changes.
Yeah, again, consistent methodology, because it looks like we made some changes on some of the lines here that actually went down a little bit instead of going up by the 3.25%. So again, consistent.
Yeah,
And I
we'll
think
discuss
that's-
that further.
And I think that's something we put in, there's a resolution later on for the elected official salaries as part of that. I think we took that in consideration.
Yeah, we can discuss that later.
Yeah, otherwise, everything else is flat.
Yep.
Overall, this budget is a very conservative budget. Appreciate all the department heads for taking the time to sharpen their pencils, as traditionally occurs in this town, to really provide value for the taxpayers. I understand we can only get to the certain point where you can't do any more with less, right? So we're doing our best to ensure that those that work here are fairly compensated, and we're taking that discussion into this budget process as a town board collectively, so thank you.
And I
Okay.
appreciate meeting with a number of the department heads here as well. Looking at the budget today, there are still a number of changes that I think need to happen. Again, salary being the big one, but there's some other things that we need to take a look at that I think are going to be important when we get to the resolution on this one later on tonight. So, thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? Now we'll move along to the resolutions portion. This first one's Resolution 2023-140, a resolution approving stipulation of settlement. Jim, I have a number of comments, but why don't you address Ms. Wagman's questions first?
Sure. So with respect to the stipulation, this stipulation is in relationship to litigation that was brought by Downey regarding the issuance of a positive declaration by the planning board. In addition to that, they brought claims regarding violations of the open meetings law, and with respect to they allege that there were civil rights violations based on the violations of the open meetings law. In response to that litigation, the town filed a motion to dismiss, and the motion to dismiss was granted in part. The challenge to the issuance of the negative declaration, of the positive declaration, was dismissed, leaving the claims of civil rights violations and violations of the open meetings law. After that was dismissed, the Downey submitted a revised complaint, and then there was depositions that were held. Members of the town board and members of the planning board and some members of the fire district, the Houstonville Fire District, were deposed. During the course of that discovery, Downey had indicated that they wished to enter into a stipulation of settlement. They wanted to discontinue the civil rights complaint without prejudice, meaning that they could bring it back in the future. What the stipulation of settlement does is, for the most part, the largest issue is it dismisses the act, it discontinues the action with the right of Downey to reinstate that action should the final application be denied.
Within 1 year of the
Within 1
stipulation
year.
date.
That 1 year period can be extended. It's not a hard and fast deadline, so should the process be moving forward within a year, the parties could extend that deadline. And what it basically says is all the depositions that were taken during the initial lawsuit would be available for use in the subsequent lawsuit. So, with respect to the application itself, it doesn't stop the planning, so the stipulation doesn't make any changes to any of the procedures of the planning board. The planning board still has the obligation to review the scoping, the draft environmental impact statement that is provided by Downey. They have to fulfill all of the secret processes that are listed in there. The stipulation puts in, incorporates changes that were made at the shortly before the positive declaration was issued by the planning board. The stipulation refers to the modified application. So that's the reference to the modified application. That was what the planning board had considered when they issued the positive declaration. But the Downey wanted to put that information in the stipulation so that all the parties understood what application was being considered going forward. So again, the process that Downey has to go through before the planning board as lead agency and then has to come back to the town board to consider the local law. So there's a draft local law that was proposed. The town board had referred the matter to the planning board under the provisions of the town's zoning code and had designated the planning board to serve as lead agency. So after the seeker review process, so let's take a step back. So the planning board had issued a positive declaration. Downey had commenced a lawsuit to try to get that overturned. The court dismissed that. So right now there was a scoping document that has been in place, a final scoping document. In response to that, Downey has submitted a draft environmental impact statement which has to be reviewed for what's called completeness. Once it's determined by the planning board as lead agency that it's complete, a public hearing would be held on that draft environmental impact statement. At the public hearing, the public has a right to come in and make any comments. Involved and interested agencies also have a right to comment on the draft environmental impact statement. Based on the comments made by the public and by any interested agencies under the SEQA regulations, Downey then has to respond to those comments and create what's called a final environmental impact statement. Based on the final environmental impact statement, again, that document is then submitted to the lead agency for review to make sure that all the comments have been addressed. And then after the final environmental impact statement is approved by the lead agency, then any of the involved agencies then would make a finding statement with respect to the matter that's before them. So in this case, the town board is considering the adoption of a local law. So at the end of the environmental review process, the town board would have to adopt a finding statement with respect to the environmental impacts, and then either adopt or not adopt the local law, or adopt the local law with various changes that it may determine to be appropriate. Part of the environmental review process would be, suggested changes to the local law that was put in draft form. So all of that would happen as part part of the environmental impact statement. The stipulation does not change any jurisdiction of the planning board, nor does it change any jurisdiction of the town board. Basically, what it does is it just discontinues the litigation that's currently pending, and basically explains what the application is currently contains. So with respect to those application issues, one of the things that Downey had proposed was to mound the propane tanks. Originally, the application came in with propane tanks that were above ground. During the course of the review before the planning board, Downey had changed its application, modified its application to they're like half buried. So basically the tanks are buried and then covered with mounds of dirt. And there are guidelines under the NFPA 58, which deals with propane, and NFPA PA 58 has some standard, well, that's the standards that governs all propane installations for, from the tank in your barbecue grill all the way to a bulk plant. So that's the guidelines that are here. The application is also covered by the New York State Fire Code, and also federal hazardous material transportation and handling issues. So the stipulation just recites what those standards are. The New York State Fire Code also calls out, a bunch of other standards by reference, as did the NFPA and as does the federal regulations. So that, item 4 says the defendants agree to process this modified application in an expeditious and efficient manner. Recognize that the modification eliminates issues that were presented in the initial application filed with the defendants. It is the intention of the parties only to review issues that are of genuine concerns to the health, safety, and welfare of all involved. Should any party to the stipulation breach any material provision of said stipulation, and upon 10 days' notice, there could be a material breach. And then I just lost that. I apologize.
So Jim, while you're looking for that.
Sure.
Let me raise some of my
Sure.
concerns and questions with respect to the stipulation. First, as I mentioned to you, when we look at the whereas clause, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it says, whereas subsequent to the filing of this first amended complaint, the plaintiffs have put forward a new plan to the defendants. There's actually 2 defendants, planning board and town board. I
Right.
don't believe, I have never seen that they have put forward a new plan to us, the town board.
Yeah,
And so I don't think that's appropriate wording.
okay.
Okay, I'd like to see that
Sure.
corrected. And as you're talking about below ground, then the 2 whereas after that, it says the only propane expert opinion in the record states that the modified now mitigates the extent. As I mentioned to you before this meeting started, I do not believe that expert opinion deals with mounded below ground possible blowouts that are caused by leaking gas pockets that may exist in the soil. So I have a concern there, and I would expect that probably the fire folks would have a concern. Another one would be as you go on to page 10, whereas the attorneys for all parties with this consent are entering into the stipulation, I would like to say that where it says without prejudice, costs, and so forth, this may be a legal given, but I'd still like to say subject to any, statute of limitations or other defenses that the
Okay.
town, may have.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to have that in there. Further in that whereas provision, the last line, it says be in operation of the proposed facility at the property. I believe that's a typo and should read begin operation of the proposed
Okay.
property facility.
Which one was that at?
That's in that same whereas the attorneys for, this is on page 10, next to last whereas
Third
clause.
paragraph.
Third
Okay.
paragraph, you're correct, thank you. And I'd be happy to discuss with you some other,
Okay.
changes on there, but I think that has to be done
Okay.
before we do it. It says whereas, on the first paragraph, packet page 11, whereas in the event of this litigation is refiled, for any new litigation is filed, then blah, 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 blah. It goes on. Well, I would like to have inserted in there that we would have the right to additional discovery based on the fact that there may be new claims.
Yes.
I know in the rules of procedure that may be, but I'd like to
Okay.
have that added in there. Now, it goes on about the defendants, on page 12, paragraph number 4, the defendants agree to process this modified application. I'm not sure, again, if the two defendants, it's appropriate for the two defendants, because we have not received as a defendant the application.
Well, I mean, so technically.
Modified application.
Right, I mean, technically, the town board is reviewing the local law, which is not, so the application is not necessarily germane to the local.
Well, then
law.
maybe you need to change the wording.
Okay.
That, because we haven't reviewed, the
No, you have not.
modified application.
Right.
And so if there's a town code section, law section, then maybe that needs to be changed to address that point. The next item, which is perhaps my greatest concern when it comes to this, is number 5. The parties acknowledge that NFPA 58, section 6.29.5 identifies, it does not identify. Section 6.29.5 deals with special issues. That's what it says.
Right.
However, the appropriate, sections that need to be referred to as governing the in-ground mounded operations are section 6.8.6.1, 6.8.6.2, and 6.8.6.3.3, okay? And then last, but by no means least, is that we have it in paragraph number 11 on page 13, it is understood and agreed that the parties have fully relied on their own judgment, belief, research, investigation. I honestly can't say that.
Okay.
Okay? So with that in mind, I think that we are not in a position to approve this tonight.
Well, I also have some concerns too. So going to page 10,
Well put.
where it says, whereas the attorneys for all parties with the consent of their clients, when did this come in front of either the town board or the planning board that we consented to this? It never happened. So how can we put a stipulation here that never happened?
Right.
Right, I
Right.
mean, I negotiated.
I know you negotiated it, but
Right.
this thing's from September 15th. It's now October 23rd. How come
Right.
we're just hearing about it tonight? I mean,
Well, we talked about the stipulation itself, and frankly,
I
Yeah,
gotta-
it's in the same vein as.
And I got to tell you, looking at this thing here and reading it, I'm not an attorney, right? So you guys are much smarter than I am, but I got to tell you, this looks so one-sided for the applicant versus us, the town. I mean, I don't know how we agreed to sign this stuff.
well, I mean, the issue is,
It almost looks like they wrote it, and nothing personal, but you
They did.
didn't get,
I mean-
and you didn't get a chance to really do an input. They wrote it and you signed it.
no, I mean, they wrote it and we negotiated, the provisions. I mean,
To
most
put
of the
that
issues with respect to
board has to
stipulation, I mean, the fundamental portion of this is that they were ending their litigation. So basically, the two choices were go to trial or reach a stipulation of settlement.
So why did we choose to go, settle? What was the,
Why did
what are
we
the
choose,
odds?
we chose to settle because the application is still pending. they still have to go through the entire seeker process. So it didn't make sense to basically litigate the civil rights issue and open meetings law issues, and then have to relitigate all the issues should their application be denied at a future date.
I mean, there are a number of changes here, but I guess the thing I don't want to do is if we ever decided to put this through, and it's not going as it is, I know the supervisor's got comments, but does that tie the hands of the planning board then?
What's that?
Does it tie the hands of the planning board if you approve it as is? I mean, is there anything they can do?
No, I mean, again, they go through the whole process. The only thing here was that, you know, so the litigation ends, the planning board goes through the process, and the planning board, you know, just agrees to basically, process the application without, you know, unduly delaying it. So,
you
which
know,
is not in anybody's interest.
What I'd also like to do, Al, is let's have some discussion, executive session on the legal, you know, his legal recommendation, the legal liabilities, you know, that go in there. We table this for now. And
Yeah,
then,
there's
you
no
know,
way
I
I
have all these issues which are consistent with what you just raised, but then I'd like Jim's advice with respect to the litigation,
Certainly.
you know, legal counsel's advice on
Also,
litigation.
Councilman Beal, where's the fire department on this?
All my comments and questions are more appropriate for executive session.
Okay.
So we have a motion to table?
I make a motion to table this.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second to table this resolution. What was the number again? Resolution 2023-140. Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2023-141, resolution approving preliminary budget for fiscal year 2024 and directing a public hearing. Bill, comment?
Okay. So with respect to the preliminary budget, I think it's fair to say that we have more work to do on the budget. And I just want to ask the attorney just to refresh our memories on our calendar for budget approval. What are the statutory requirements for budget approval?
So, the public hearing can take place no later than the Thursday after Election Day,
So the ninth.
11/9.
Ninth.
Right.
which is the day
We have it scheduled, correct?
That's
We have that
scheduled,
scheduled.
but
Yeah.
we also have a resolution, I think, to deal with that again.
So,
Yeah, so we're going to do that.
so we have that. And with respect to,
Setting the preliminary budget there's still time, like, to hold a special meeting. We've done that in the
Yes.
past. We've held special meetings to
Right.
discuss that.
so the public hearing notice has to be published basically 6 days before, so November 3rd.
All right, so we're having a meeting on November 9th, so we want to make sure, that we have that notice.
Do we need
So the
to,
public hearing notice would have to be published on or before Friday, November 3rd.
So the public hearing notice needs then to include the preliminary budget, right? Right, Joe?
It
Yeah.
needs to have, needs to
Yeah.
have the salary of the elected officials in it.
But what about the other?
The others, well, I mean, so, take a step back. So what, if the town board does not agree on a preliminary budget, then whatever changes have been made to the tentative budget become the preliminary budget
Right.
for public hearing purposes.
Right.
So, you know, the only thing that is required to be finally determined in the public hearing notice is the salary of elected officials.
So we have till the 3rd.
Right, the whole purpose of
Yep.
this is that the public has something to review, to hear
Correct.
on
Yep.
next, on the 9th. So this is why you're approving it first, then you're having the public
Yep.
hearing.
Right.
Whereas
Agreed.
everything else is done the other way around.
Yep.
I
So if
get
they
that.
See something in my office, they can review
Yep.
it, and then they can hear on it.
Agreed.
Okay.
That's why it's
Thanks,
happening.
Joe.
And
Yep.
again, so that's the preliminary budget. That
Right.
budget, after the 9th, that budget can be changed.
Correct.
The public hearing must be closed by, I believe, the 15th of the month.
13th?
so we don't need to approve this tonight?
No.
We can wait till the
No.
9th? Is that
But we
correct?
need to approve,
You need to approve the preliminary budget something to hear on.
Well, before November 3rd, right? We would need to approve it before November 3rd, not necessarily tonight.
Right, but then you want to have another meeting.
Well, maybe there's, I don't know. I mean, I'm just raising what the process and timing is.
So when does the final budget have to be adopted by?
November 20th.
Yeah, November 20th. So it's not uncommon in the past, we have approved the preliminary budget with the salary changes for the elected officials, or no changes, depending on how we vote. We have a proposal here which indicates a legal notice to publish elected official salaries. I don't see any reason why we can't move forward with 141. Yes, we are approving a preliminary budget, but it's a preliminary budget, not the preliminary budget.
Well, it is the.
I understand, Counselor. What I'm saying is, it's not the final budget.
Final budget.
You're not approving the final budget.
So on the record, I think we all can agree that we have changes we need to make to the actual budget here.
Correct.
But we have to adopt something, in my opinion, at this point, to meet the statutory requirement of the elected official salaries being noticed properly.
I don't have a problem doing the elected official salaries tonight. I just have a problem.
If I may, just one, so statutorily, the elected official salaries that need to be included are the highway super,
Right.
the town clerk, the supervisor, and the town board members. The justices do not.
Right.
Right.
Statutorily need to be included.
And that's all that has to be approved tonight.
Correct. And what, the reason that is, it's kind of strange in that, so that's you can always lower those salaries.
We can also
cannot-
lower your salary, too.
Or put them on contingency.
So again, you cannot, what appears in the public hearing notice for the salaries for elected
Right, right.
officials
It's-
is the highest number.
Right. I get it.
You can always adopt a lower number in your budget,
Right.
or, but you can't change it, you can't change the salary of an elected official in the middle of a term.
Correct.
Right, I get it. I get the
Or
idea.
lower, I should say.
Right, I get the idea. So what you're saying, Al, is we can approve the elected official salaries and then not approve the preliminary budget until November 9th?
That's where I'm going with this.
Is that possible?
No,
Joe, yeah.
they need to publish a.
Well, you need to have
preliminary
some, I mean,
budget. They need
right.
something to come in and have a public hearing on. They can't just come in.
So then you can just put out the supervisor's budget, correct?
Yeah.
Well, we
Well,
haven't,
essentially, if you fail to adopt a preliminary budget, right, you,
Becomes the.
Correct.
right,
Right.
right. So what you're saying is take no action and then. the
Well, we need to
supervi-
approve the chart
Right,
for
but-
further discussion on the salaries.
Right.
And that's pretty
So if we,
clear.
okay, so let's look at it this way. So if we approve the document that we have in front of us right now as the preliminary budget, okay, with exception to the elected official salaries that may be changed within this budget, that is the preliminary budget.
Correct.
Correct.
So
so what
what you
you're,
would do is you would amend the budget with respect to, you would amend the budget before you with respect to those particular salary lines,
Yeah.
and that would then be your preliminary budget.
So what we have in here today in this notice on 7.2.a is the salaries that we're kind of recommending. It's not the same ones that's in the preliminary budget from the
Correct.
supervisor.
That's, for,
Yeah.
and this would be
So what
subject to
you-
further
so-
discussion.
So what do you do then? You approve the lower one?
Salaries you gave me are the ones that are attached.
That's correct.
being published.
Okay.
And those are different from.
Correct.
Right, so we could adopt the supervisor's tentative budget
Correct.
with the
Changes.
following changes.
Correct.
The following changes would indicate the elected official salaries.
Correct.
That would then become the
Preliminary.
preliminary budget,
Correct.
which is not a finalized document. We're on the record here multiple times tonight. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done within this document.
Correct.
So we're gonna, what I would say is approve that, as I just said, with the understanding that there's still work to be done.
Correct, I agree.
So the methodology for the elected official salaries, and we're always 100% transparent here, and we've talked about this for a number of meetings, is uniformity. And my position has been that if management and electeds are going to be receiving any sort of increase, it's going to be standardized at the same rate.
Yep.
The 3.25% for management salaries has been applied to the elected official salaries, and this is based on 3.25%
Correct.
from the adopted 2023 fiscal year salaries, and that's what we have in front of us right now.
Right, which is, again, different from what's in the
Right,
preliminary
so
budget.
the motion would be, and I'll make the motion, that we adopt the supervisor's tentative budget with
The exception of,
the exception of the elected officials' salaries for the position of supervisor, highway superintendent, town clerk, council members, and town justices. Those amounts are 3.25% above the adopted 2023 salaries, and they are indicated for the purposes of a legal notice that has been prepared by the town clerk.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item would be Resolution 2023-142, schedule special town board budget meeting for November 9th, 2023.
Move, however, as much as I appreciate you putting 7 a.m.
Yes.
for the start time, not
Oh, we
sure.
figured
I
if
Well,
you
we
got
thought
out of
we'd
your
do
other job,
that
just
in the
come right
midst
here.
of your radio show.
Yeah, that would be entertainment at its finest. 7 p.m. might be more appropriate.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
all right, so I'll make a motion, we change the time to 7 PM,
yes.
Just a
and
typo.
we approve Resolution 142.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2023-143, resolution authorizing the controller proposed budget transfers, and we have a list of those items. Any comments?
Yeah,
questions?
so Frederick's here, so can you just come up and explain a couple of these, please? So the big one really is line 1315-406, software maintenance.
Yes, right.
So you want to
we
transfer
have-
$12,000, is that what you
Yes,
want
so
to?
we have money there, which I can use instead of using the fund balance. So I said, why not? Why don't I use my own lines to move the money from,
What is it for that we're going up so much? Because you have, what, 5,700 in the account now, you want to add another 12,000?
well, I had 15,000, I think, I had 16,000 for the
I'm just looking, what is the,
adopted.
so what is
So
the
I
second
have-
line here? You've got an amount, you got an account, a front two, and then you got another dollar amount next to it. What is that? So it's $5,700
Oh,
like
yes,
it's a
yes. So
line.
the total I would request to be moved is 15,000 from 407 and 406, the two of them combined, and move them into those three lines on the right-hand side.
And so my
six-
question is, how come so much? Did we miss
Because
something?
I looked at whatever I have currently left. So we have 7 more, payments to be made, bi-weekly payments. I looked at what I have in the budget and what I needed to get me to the year end based on 35 hours a week and based on their those positions' current pay rates.
So did you reflect this in the budget for 2024 so that we're not going to underrun and have to do a budget transfer?
So the budget for 2024 is a mere 35, hours a week. So any additional, if the employees work any additional amounts, that would come out of the comp timeline, which is the 199, and I have 3,500 there. And in 2024, as I indicated, I have a special, the one for escrow account clerk, which I budgeted for 5 hours a week at $33.55 an hour at time and a half rate for 52 weeks. So if that gets approved, then we will be okay for 2024. But this is what I need now to get me to the year end.
Okay, the other big one is 1910, $442,000. It's unallocated insurance. Did we just not get the numbers right when we did the original budget? It's a lot of money.
Yes, the insurance is always going up.
And again, are we sure we're covered for 2024, since looks like we got to transfer
Yes, we
42,000?
did
Just want to
boost
make sure we
that.
have enough in the budget next year.
Yes, we did boost that amount for 2024.
I think,
Uh,
Al, for budget next year, we're going to have you'll have the same situation as the insurance rates increase mid-year.
But we should make sure at
So
least
you
you've got,
can anticipate some adjustment, but I don't think we can.
well, I'm hoping he's got at
anticipate.
least the 42,000 next
Well,
year.
Yes, if you look at the,
Because at a minimum, it's going to
tentative-
probably stay flat, and it's probably going to go up, as you said,
Gonna go
but
so
is
the
that
tentative
reflected in your
is,
budget for
is
2024?
much higher than the adopted 2023.
Yeah.
Well, Central Hudson's a given.
Yep. HVAC's kind of a given, too.
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve Resolution 2023-143. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the resolution passes. The next item is Resolution 2023-144. That's resolution authorizing budget transfer for zoning enforcement overtime.
Move it.
Barbara, you wanna come?
Second.
Whoa, hang on.
Barbara, you want to
Hang on a
discuss?
Let's find out what it is first.
This transfer is for the deputy zoning. So this year, we found that she went to court to fight for our tickets. We had a banner year this year with enforcement on certain wards. One of them is in Mr. Casella, where she spent an enormous amount of time after work going and sitting with them, even on a Saturday morning. And the court she was going to because of that, and that's after hours, and also many meetings at the town board. So there was no line for the overtime for this. And this was probably one of the most intense years for overtime, including, as she's brought to you, those 4 properties that, by the way, are all in some form of getting better, so that's good news.
And then they had the big cleanup.
We had the big cleanup in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So do you have enough for 2024 now to
So-
reflect this, if she's
So
going to continue?
I know. So in this, in 8015.199B, I put 6,000 for next year. But in hindsight, at the rate we're going, that's something you might want to consider changing to a more realistic figure.
Yeah, because as we're going through the budget with the rest of the team here, we want to probably take that into consideration. If you only have 6, maybe we need 12.
I have to say, of all the years, because she works with these people during the day, and even for the other building inspectors, she comes prepared for court. Jim, a lot of times, is still busy with the regular traffic. She's appearing in front of the judges, and people are actually, she puts them off until they come into compliance, and it's been working really well. And I have to say, we're getting more compliance than we have in the past.
Correct.
So, you know, the fines kind of pay for her to be there after hours, but the fines aren't the issue. The fines are these people are finally with pools that could be dangerous
Right.
or other issues. She's getting them closed.
It's about public safety. Clearly, Judith has gone above and beyond here. She's been before us multiple times. There's no further justification than I need at this moment to
Agreed.
approve this transfer, and I'll maintain my motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, I agree.
Motion second. All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. And Barbara, thank you, and Judith. The next item is Resolution 2023-145, resolution authorizing water tenancy agreement for 1222 and 1224 Route 9. That's Robert Tompkins Living Trust. You know, Bob's been here, you know, last time, and Jim, Bob, and I think Mike, you know, everybody's been working on it. So, you know, Bob, if you want to say a few words, then Jim, you can talk
Sure.
about.
If you have the agreement ready.
Well, Jim.
So the only thing that's outstanding, our code require, so the property has, what is it, is it a one-family house?
3-family.
3-family. So it's got a 3-family house and a body shop. For the buy-in fee for for non-residential properties requires a certification of estimated usage by an engineer, which.
Mike looked at it, it has one toilet with 2 employees.
So, I mean,
It's
I
not
don't.
even open to the public. No-
Right, I don't, I
No
mean.
customers would want to go in there.
Like I said, in this case, I don't think it's really necessarily worth it.
Mike, what's your estimate on what would be the water usage?
You know, it's hard for me to say, but, you know, I would say, if you picked what a house would use, like 250 or 300 gallons
Yeah.
a day, that would be a lot, but I don't want to.
And the house would use a shower, there's no
Yeah,
shower
right.
there.
Yeah, so, you know, I would think what Jim started this by saying is that an engineer would pick the number. Jim, didn't you say that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the code provides for non-commercial, but.
He's got an engineer.
I'm-
I'm not gonna argue with his engineer if he picks 150 or 200
Right.
gallons a day.
So, I mean, that's the only, you know, that's the only issue that's out there with respect to, and then, because the assessment card doesn't list it as an old style, I think if the.
It's before zoning,
Yeah,
very old house.
it's a very old house.
I
I mean, the card
renovated it,
says
I
it's
know.
1770. It
Jim,
says.
can we get this resolved tonight, just subject to fill in and invite? Because it looks like cold weather's coming
Yeah.
faster, or.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
trying to
don't-
get hooked up before.
Like I said, the only issue is the buy-in fee. And, you know, I think if the board approves it, subject to, you know, an approval letter from his engineer for the buy-in, for the estimated consumption, I think that would be.
How
that was
quickly can you get that letter, Bob?
Oh, I can get it tomorrow.
Okay.
13, you said it's a 3-family,
There's a 3-family there,
and is it 1
3
bedroom?
2-bedrooms.
3 2-bedrooms, okay.
So if the board doesn't mind, you know, it seems like this is gonna go through. Bob wants to, we have a rule with the water department, we do no recreational digging after November 15th, and digging up our water main and tapping it, we call that recreational digging, because it's not an emergency. But it would be good, because Bob is very aggressive on trying to get this done. What I'll do is after this meeting, I'll schedule with Bob and his engineer and his contractor, we'll dig up our water main, we'll tap it for him, put the curb valve to his property. We won't let him tie into the curb valve until he satisfies all your legal agreements and the buy-in fees. But then our water main won't be touched after November 15th.
Yeah, that's the big concern.
And that makes sense
So that main was installed as part of the loop,
for us. As part of the McFarland loop.
and I'm thinking there was, I mean, there should have been a tap, but that's the issue, I don't know how many taps for that parcel.
The map does not show a curb valve there. all
Okay.
right? So I'm just guessing the way it's gone so far is where the curb valve is, Bob may not want to hook into that.
Okay.
So
We're gonna try to keep it south
if he
of the
exposes
house.
the water main, we'll do the tap for him. He still has to get his building permit from the town, and he has to go through all that. But I would like to, sometimes these agreements get held up.
Right.
I would like to get the water main exposed and tapped.
So, Jim,
And
the
then-
agreement would be basically the same that was done for Rick Romick right next door, subject to putting in the proper fee.
Well, here it's just one.
Yeah,
It's.
but I mean, it's the same agreement.
No, it's the same agreement. The only other question I have, Mike, do we require a separate, a connection for each building?
So that is a good question. Usually if there's 2 parcels, we
It's
require,
one parcel.
But it's on one parcel.
if it's on one parcel, we're okay with one service.
One
to that
service, one
parcel.
meter. Okay.
All right. That's the way we have.
Do we
on the
have a
parcels.
buy-in number?
We have on
The buy-in number is, so for
I have a question.
a single family,
This is getting a little murky. So Jim, excuse
Yes.
me for a second. I have a question.
sure.
It's 2 things that are being connected. Your
Correct.
business,
I'll-
I want to make sure
Go
I'm
ahead.
clear on this so the residents know also. It's your business and it's the apartment house. So there's 2 separate,
Let me clarify, not my business, it's a tenant, okay?
you own it though.
But I own it, yes.
Okay, so it's your property.
There's-
So
it's a-
2,
It's a large house that has 3 2-bedroom apartments, okay?
it's an apartment house. It's an apartment house that has how many? Three-family apartment house.
Okay.
All right.
In the back, the body shop's very small. It's 2 bays. It used to be an accessory building to the house on the property. There's a well in the middle, a well house, okay? That's where we want to bring the water to, because that's where it splits to both houses. Do you follow me? To both
No,
buildings.
I just want to make sure it's two things that are going to be using
Yes.
this water, not one, two.
Right. It's going to be, the house is going to use the bulk of it because it has showers and people living there. The body shop has 2 guys working there during the day.
That's
There's
what
And you don't do car washes or anything in a body
No, not
wash,
really.
at a body?
No.
Okay.
So with respect to the buy-in fee, under our code, a 2-bedroom apartment is deemed to be 200 gallons per day for a capital buy-in fee of $2,000 for a 2-bedroom unit, so that would be $6,000 for the 3. And then the body shop is $10 per gallon of estimated daily flow. So if it's, 100
I
or
would think,
1,000.
offhand, I would say 100 gallons
Yeah.
at most.
So that'd be like, so the total's like 7,000.
So do I need to write the check now? Or
No, let's get
No,
that
you-
confirmed by your
you-
engineer,
you
okay?
can't-
Then you can write it tomorrow or whenever
Okay.
you get it in,
So I'll get a
if the
letter
board
from him.
approves.
Right.
And I'll
Who's your
bring it-
engineer?
Michael Espy.
Oh, okay.
I'll get a
Oh, that's
letter from
right.
him
Okay.
estimating it, and I'll bring it
Right.
down to the town.
Sure.
And I'll see you, or
No,
No, come
who
to
does
my,
the
guess
agreement?
Barb-
You're the lawyer.
come,
You're gonna
come to
do
the
the agreement.
supervisor office and then we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll help you through.
I
Okay.
knew you would. I never met a woman who wouldn't take my money.
Careful.
Yes.
We're live on
I
television.
wasn't thinking about that time. Take your mind out of the gutter, Mike. Yes. So we all set? Is it approved?
Hold
No,
on, we have to vote.
we just have to vote.
Hold on.
Okay.
So just to clarify, this is part of the United Wappinger Water District that's on the loop that was put in for hydraulic purposes between McFarland Road and
But
Adams Faircare
it's
Farms, correct?
not part of, it's not within the district yet.
No, right, but it's on that, it's on
This
that
is one of
line.
the extensions,
Yes,
right.
this is one of the
So it
extensions.
goes, Adams is in the, so it runs from Adams down,
Just in front of
down
Auto,
to,
in front
down
of
to
Auto,
Barrister's Row.
right, Auto
runs up-
Elegance, past your property, Barrister's Road to
And
McFarland.
then it turns on McFarland and runs up
Right.
to White Gates.
Right. So this line is right there, and,
Right.
And this is one that Rick Romig had.
right, Rick
come to us
Romig
before.
previously was granted a tenancy, correct?
Correct.
And this is basically a neighboring property, I'll move it.
And the properties just, I mean, I think the board's aware that the properties on Route 9 have a very bad salt problem in their water
Oh, yeah.
supply.
Correct.
Yeah, well, Dan won't allow anything.
Right.
no. So is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. So you come in tomorrow with the letter from your engineer and your check then based on that, but it sounds like it's approximately 7,000.
Okay.
Mike, as we were talking about the weather turning, how's Nature Preserve coming along?
I haven't heard how they're progressing.
So there's a letter from Dan Keeler approving their connection.
Yeah.
But as far as how their connection, so their connection and the plans, I believe, were signed by the Board of Health. There was, I can try to pull it up.
I'm all set?
We're all set with you,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, let's go on to Resolution 2023-146, resolution authorizing contract with Clove Excavating for rental of paving equipment. I know, Tim, you had sent off something, Steve, I don't know. Al, did you want to
There was
discuss?
an updated rate on that,
Yeah,
wasn't there?
there
Yeah,
was.
it's 35,700 now.
Yeah,
So we have the Highway Garage Edition, 3-bay edition, and there's like basically 2 categories of paving required. One we're calling the apron, which is
Right.
kind of around the perimeter. You imagine a ramp driving up into the garage, calling that the apron. And then there's an additional 51, that apron area is 6,600 square feet going all the way around the new building. There's an additional laydown area where Mike stores like the equipment, the plows, the pipes. So there's an additional 5,100 square feet for that area. So we're working off of the county approved pricing list, a similar list that you would use to pave your streets. So Clove has all the paving equipment. There was an initial quote sent last week that was around
About 53,000.
something.
Yeah, 52,760.
But by the time, there was like a little bit of lag in information. By the time I got to the site, Mike's crew had already cleaned up and prepped the site, so that's what the savings that you see there.
He had a big labor savings.
And then,
Huge.
Right, so then, really the only stipulation is the town has to buy the stone and the asphalt, similar to what you would do, and again, off the county prices. So, if you take the 35,700, that's a Clove estimate. I estimate 22,000 in asphalt and 20,300 in sub-base material. Again, these are all estimated quantities, Clove's time, the stone and the asphalt. The math shows about $78,000, rounded up, say 80,000 for the labor, machines, and the material. All that would go against the highway building line item
So the $3 million we bonded for.
that you have that,
Okay.
and I did that accounting in an email to you to show where this would fall.
I'll make that motion.
So
So it's-
first,
we
before
gotta
we do
change
it, we need to amend
The
the number
35,700, so.
to
Oh,
the
yeah,
80,000 number, right?
Yeah, let's make it 80.
Not to exceed 80,000.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
don't go over
Because
that.
that would
Okay.
include the materials.
Yeah,
that-
so let's say not to exceed 80,000.
Okay. So Chris, you want to make the motion?
I'll make that amended motion.
I'll second the
80,000.
amended motion to 80,000.
Okay, motion and second for the amended, motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Okay.
Do we need to do an approval on that now that we've amended it to 80?
We can for the record.
I don't know,
I
Josie,
think we're,
What was in the packet was 52, here's another 35.
yeah.
It's not replacing it.
Right. No, so, but the 50, there is a line in the amount of 52, that's what we're changing to 80,000, right?
So
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
I thought it was a substitute. I thought the price-
so
Oh,
what I would do is approve the proposal from Clove Excavator, Inc.
Yeah.
In the form of the attached, and that was what,
35,700.
Well, they were-
35,700.
So Joe, the piece of paper that you have that says Clove should say 35,700, right?
Okay, addition, yeah.
And then
Right.
add a new paragraph 3, or on
Okay.
item 3.
Do it that way.
Just add it, and the town board hereby approves asphalt and item 4 in the amount of,
Say are you talking just those two?
Yeah, he's dividing it into two.
42,300?
42,300.
So it's Clove's number 35,700, which is reduced from the 50 that you saw originally.
So it's 78,000, so you made it
And then
80,000.
we're
I got it.
adding 42,300 for material costs.
Well, this is one way to make it complicated.
It's 80,000.
It's 80,000.
That's what he said, 80,000.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, and that's typically the way we do
Yeah.
the paving work, is Clove bills on the equipment with operators, and then we buy the materials separately.
But we're approving the equipment and the materials
Correct.
Correct.
tonight,
So
just
we
to make
modif-
it clear.
So we modified it to 80,000.
Right.
And now we have to, now motion say, now it's 80,000, make a motion to approve the 80,000, because we modified the first one, so now we're gonna say
Okay.
we're gonna actually approve it, if you're gonna do it. right.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you.
I was trying to do a little gym language
Joe,
there.
clear as mud?
Oh.
Joe, you okay?
So he's gonna send me.
Yeah, he'll send you.
The accurate documents.
Okay,
Frederick, just pay the bill, please.
okay.
Before December 31st.
Next
Yeah.
item
Or
is,
encumber it.
next item, Resolution 2023-147, resolution granting permission for the town of Wappinger to apply for a Justice Court Assistance Program, JCAP grant. You know, the court's
Yes.
applied for these before,
I'll
have been very
move.
successful.
Second it.
We've had good success with these.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2023-148, acknowledgement of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item then is items for special consideration, new business. You know, the first item we have, have Christian Paggi here and Bob Rawls here, everybody, I think, has this letter, but to introduce it to the board.
What are you doing to me?
Jeez, I think we all need it for a seat.
Well, yeah, I think my cataracts are.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I brought that, but my name is Christian Paggi. I'm here on behalf of the owners, Robert and Chris Rawls. They're also here with me, owners of Wappingers Falls Mobile Home Park off of New Hackensack Road. They are petitioning the town to connect to the Wappingers United Water District. As you mentioned, we've submitted some materials. Back in April, we met with Supervisor Thurston, with Mike, and the town's engineer. The health department was also present, Dan Keeler. The reason for the proposed connection is that the public water supply for the mobile home park has been noted to be contaminated with PFOS. And the struggles with dealing with and treating that seem to be getting more complicated and expensive as the time goes on, unfortunately. The existing water supply is off of New Hackensack to the east of the property, around 150 feet to the east, just beyond the stream there. So what's being proposed is a water main extension, approximately 350 feet towards the property, of 8-inch water main to the front of the property, right to the access of the mobile home park. We discussed a few ways to do this as far as the mechanics of that approval, whether it would be a tenancy agreement similar to what was just discussed, or a actual water district extension, or a combination of the two if it was a tenancy that then transitioned into a district extension, because I understand that there is a potential need further down New Hackensack for water. So really, I think that we're here tonight just to really get the ball officially rolling so that we can sit down with the town's consultants to work out both the technical and administrative items. There was a $5,000 escrow that was submitted to help with that. And again, yes, to introduce the project and the property owners, and to answer any questions that you guys would have.
Are they also the owners of the Scribo Mobile Home Park as well?
Which one?
Scribo?
Yes.
I think I met you before.
How many units are
I apologize. So yeah, there would be 51 new connections, and that would include the deli and the apartment just adjacent to the mobile home park. So we're proposing one service connection to serve with 1 meter, 1 backflow preventer that would serve all of those individual connections for a total of approximately 11,000 gallons a day. That's what we would be requesting the town reserve capacity for.
We have enough
Refer to
capacity,
Mike
Mike?
on everything,
Yeah.
so-
We have enough capacity for 11,000 gallons a day. Mr. Rawls owns the trailer park on the end of Pie Lane, which
Yep.
is also a customer of the United Wappingers Water District, and he came on aboard there when, as well as we had a problem with E. coli in the wells, and he hooked up then. He's I don't like to say anything nice about him, but he's a very good customer. He runs a very good trailer park. He's one of the few people in our district. He reads his meter every week to make sure he's not losing water to leakage, and then calls us when he's got a leak and goes out and fixes it. He's a very good customer. So if from my perspective or the operator's perspective, we have the water for him, and there's other people that could hook into that water main even as they put it in, but as it gets closer to the apartments there, which I think will need water at some point.
So is the main on the other side of New Hackensack?
Yeah.
This main is on the east side of New Hackensack Road. It's a big hurdle. I mean, one of the big hurdles is 350 feet, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot along a county road. But additionally, next time you ride down New Hackensack Road, there's a pretty deep drainage swale there that he has to navigate
So he's not far off from the sewer plant that's on that side?
He's right across from the sewer, he's right,
Right
the
adjacent to
sewer
it.
plant is our neighbor. He's
Okay.
our neighbor.
I think the value here is we need to get that water main down to Hackensack Road. And if the gentleman is willing to extend it 350 feet to his property, that's going to get us closer to Woodhill Greens, where it needs to be going. And this is going to be 8-inch main extension, right? So
Yep.
there will be a public safety benefit also. There should be a hydrant someplace at the area of this property. I've been in there for fires before, luckily minor fires, but that's always a thought, you know, it's a challenge in there.
That was brought up in the initial discussion too. We're actually showing a fire hydrant at the entrance now.
Yeah,
too,
so I would support allowing the applicant and his engineer to move forth with our professionals to determine the best course of action.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there going to be any pressure problems?
Hope not.
No, we have right about where at our sewer plant, which is probably basically the same elevation, if not a little higher, we have 95-pound pressure, between 85 and 95 pounds pressure there, which will be probably more than Bob wants. He'll put in a pressure reducing valve to support it, the plumbing, because the plumbing's in the trailers aren't used to that kind of pressure.
Yep. So is it one hookup and then he extends it, so how does
Yeah,
that work for the,
That would be the best for, in my opinion, that would be the best for the town, because you put 1 meter in, just like we do the one on Pie Lane. There's 1 meter there, he reads it, we read it, and he gets a bill. We
So is it-
send out a bill based.
so does that mean there's only one buy-in fee? How does that work?
That would be something that you would have to work out,
Okay.
because I don't know what the installation of water main, if that would offset the buy-in fee. I'm not sure I'm not sure how the board would work that.
Jim, any idea?
I mean, in the past, the board has given credit to a person for doing the main extension. I mean, that's happened in the past. But, obviously, it's up to the board.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I think we need to hook it up, and we could hook it up as quickly as possible before the winter gets here, if we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be cheaper for a private sector individual to do the extension, significantly cheaper, right?
Yep.
So as long as he's extending it per town specs, which it sounds like he will be, it's a benefit to the town. You know, I have no objection to a proposal being put forth to the town board on some level of prorated credit for the infrastructure that's in place, as long as everything is equitable across the board here. You know, I see this only as a benefit to not only the residents that live in this development or this community, but for those that are on New Hackensack Road.
Yeah.
This is how, in 2023, you get this type of infrastructure extended by partnerships like this.
Offers them an opportunity to extend other customers. I agree.
Right, because then once he gets it to his property, we potentially could have other private endeavors that can take it from there to the next spot. And in a perfect world, we could get it down New Hackensack Road that way, rather than a prevailing wage process using town taxpayer dollars.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, Christian.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
There was a question on Nature Preserve. I did just get the update that
Okay.
there's a conditional approval from the health department. The owner is in the process of hiring a contractor, and our office is reviewing shop drawings, so it's all
Good.
moving forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christian.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, very good. Next item is proposal for Phase 2 of Spook Hill Park equipment. Randy and Jessica?
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
Mike.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
This one?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica and I would like to give you an update on Phase 2 of Spook Hill. I know you have a lot of paperwork this evening, but we appreciate you looking at what we're going to tell you. We've got some new information that literally just came in yesterday, and we have some more prices, different estimates. The first bit of information is that Parkitex is ready to go with this project on the 13th of November. We wanted Steve and Tim and the board to know that they're ready to roll, weather permitting. I don't know if we need your permission to do that. They need your permission to do that. They're ready to go. That's the new equipment that's already been paid for, and they're ready to install.
So would you give us an overview, and especially for our residents that are very interested in
Sure.
progress out there? So,
Phase 2 includes a new swing set. Jessica had a company do some testing on it, on the old swing set, and it's just not up to par. Safety issue, compliance issue. So Phase 2 would be to replace the old swing set, put in the new equipment that's already been purchased on the 13th of November, and eventually the walking path, the 1/10 of a mile walking path. So, you want to talk about that? Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So, in conjunction with the installations that would be taking place in November, there had been the big question of, is the old equipment going to come down? The larger climbing structure that's there. And as part of the safety inspection, of which the swing set did not fare well, the climbing equipment actually did fare pretty well. There's a singular safety concern that can be repaired for under $700. There is surfacing, of course, that needs to get put around it, but that needs to be replenished every couple of years anyway. Really what the older equipment that's out there needs is a cleaning and a facelift and a coat of paint. The bones of that equipment are good and could give several more years of service. So right now it's my recommendation that that equipment does stay put and we continue the additions to the park without removing what is right now the largest structure in the park and would cost upwards of $60,000, and I do mean upwards of $60,000 to replace. So that.
what are we doing for replenishment of the mulch, which is significantly compressed and
Yeah.
below grade? Maybe Steve knows too, but having a wife who seriously hurt her back going down a slide because of the lack, not in our town,
No.
another town, lack of proper mulch depth and being loose, not compacted. This is very important.
So I think as part of all of these installations and surfacing that's going to be going around newer equipment as well, I think that Steve will be taking a look at
Okay.
what needs to also be backfilled into areas that already exist out there.
So this new equipment that you're talking about from a swing set perspective, how much is that going to cost? Because we've got to approve something for that, correct?
Okay, so the swing set is separate from what we're talking about getting installed in November. The swing set would go in the spring. So the estimate that's in front of you right now is an estimate that includes both the swing set and the eventual installation of the walking track. I broke it down for you on the bottom because the walking track is not really something that is up for discussion tonight.
Right.
So if you look at the numbers on the bottom, you have the swing set fully contracted out, meaning that they remove the old one, they do the excavation of the site, they install the swing set, and then they install the surfacing. The second quote underneath, the $11,056.40, is if the site work is done in-house, with the exception of the installation that always has to be done by the certified installer.
So the equipment coming in potentially November to put in, have you talked and agreed with Steve, he's gonna take care of making the grounds set?
That was all fully
mulch?
contracted out.
Okay.
The work that's getting done in November was fully contracted out.
And that's part of the money we've already approved, correct?
And that's already all been.
Okay.
It's already been paid for.
Yeah.
But you can see, as far as the swing set is concerned, if we do it in-house, if we yank out the old swing set and do the surfacing and the mulch, we save about $11,000.
And again, have you guys talked to Steve or Mike about doing that stuff in-house? Us doing
I
it?
talked to Steve about 5 minutes before
Okay.
the meeting because we just got this
We-
information.
Okay.
Yeah, we just got this
So,
information.
I'm not going to speak for him, but it sounded like all is doable, but he
So what is it you need tonight?
I need further details on what's actually required.
Okay.
This
So-
doesn't sound out of line, but until I see the actual plan, I can't comment.
Okay. When can you get them?
Would you be okay with November installations?
No.
No?
I'm not, if you're asking my department to participate, no, because we're.
No, you're not. No.
Well, yeah, outside of that, then there's no need for me to be involved.
Okay. And you guys would be okay with the November installation? Tim, you okay? Tim, speak.
It's been very difficult for me because there's been a lot of moving parts. We developed the overall park concept plan that had various age groups. We had ADA accessibility. We've had budget constraints along the way. A big component is the walking track, which really needs to be ADA compliant. I think in an attempt, from what I recall, because this has changed a few times, was to keep in theme with the ADA and the age group, so
Right.
you purchase this equipment that's ready to be installed in November, correct? And so we were gonna have to modify our overall concept plan, because originally, I think our concept plan was to remove all the existing, if I remember right.
We had both.
So we had to remove all the existing equipment to make room for the new equipment. Now, we've got the inspections that show just the old swing set needs to be removed. Where are the pieces ready to go in November gonna be installed?
So when it was originally discussed with the two versions of the plan, one where it came out, it was gonna go right where that was. In the version where it didn't come out, should things pass inspection, it was gonna go to the right.
So further away from the
Yeah.
parking area, the concession
Right.
building.
It was gonna go in a continuous line
Right.
towards the outer area of the park.
If it was a clock, it would be like 12 o'clock.
So then it was a budgetary item. Are we able to complete the track as an entirety, or would it just be an extension of the ADA access that would go past the existing equipment to this new equipment, right?
That's where it starts to get tricky about talking about the walking track.
Yeah.
But that's where we kind of need to consider the big picture, and we can't just, I mean, it's okay to do it in segments, but the segments have to add up to the whole.
Something in the end.
So if you put the track in,
Mhm.
are you planning on putting any equipment inside the track? And the
No.
only reason I ask is because if you put it in, and it's obviously costly,
Right.
and then have to run heavy equipment across it to do whatever site work, because I have no idea what we want to do in there, it makes no sense, because you're going to tear it up.
I think the original idea that they had done was inside,
Yeah.
Right.
and then they gravitated to the outer with the different
Okay.
concentric
Yeah.
zones, so, yeah. So I think right now,
What it's turned into, because Tim's very right, there's been about 12 different versions
you
of
know,
this.
multiple.
If not more, is it kind of following the outer curve of that walking track as we proceed with other phases, whether it be more fitness equipment going out there or additional play equipment, things like that, is just following that contour of the walking track.
Right. And we had decided also to keep the inside green.
Right.
The inside of the track area green.
So in the most recent correspondence that I tried to prompt Lior, the Parkitects rep, was, they're very good at coming up with these renderings. And, I don't know if maybe he shared it with you. I haven't seen it, but do we have an updated rendering? I mean, I think this is what we really need to get from him, is so everybody can help visualize, like, what we're gonna end up with.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Okay. All right.
So what do you need tonight?
Well, we wanted to get some kind of sense of how you felt about the November 13th installation. That's the first thing. Because weather permitting, they can do it, but it's also, we're looking at, obviously, winter coming. So it would mean we'd have to do it in the spring. Again, it's another season gone. That's the one thing. And also, we wanted to show you the difference with the swing set between if we did it in-house or we let Architects.
When is the existing swing set to be removed? Because it did not pass the safety.
Since we're hopefully doing that part in-house, it could be removed as soon as Steve is able to remove it.
Okay. So are you then requesting for us to approve the purchase of a new swing set?
I'm always asking for money, so why not? That would probably be the best idea, because that would, lock in the price, because the prices have gone up.
So you're looking for if it's fully contracted, the $22,256.40 to be approved?
That's if they do everything, yes.
So that would be the maximum amount.
Yep.
I think we should authorize the maximum amount up to, and, because as we know, Steve has a long list.
Yeah. I'm not sure where this would even end up.
Yeah, look, that means that we'll be able to get it in sooner and get the old one out, which is a safety.
Yeah, that's what my problem is. The safety thing is important.
And it end up costing less in the end. But we have to
So what's on the way? I'm confused here. It's like we're installing a swing set, but we haven't bought it yet.
No, that's the other equipment.
It's the other equipment.
So what's coming? What is on its way?
What's coming is equipment for older kids.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a middle school type. There's climbing, a lot of climbing equipment. That's really lacking from the park.
So we approved like 25,000 before. Randy was putting up the other $20,000, and that's how we're paying for that stuff that's coming in November. So this is in addition to it.
Does Steve have to do any site work for this new equipment, or no?
According to what was presented at the board meeting, it was fully contracted.
It's fully, it's all paid for. The stuff that's coming in November is all paid for.
I say we should approve fully contracting, maybe a little bit of additional, up to 25,000 or something like that.
That's fine.
I agree.
So I'll make a motion tonight that we approve up to 25,000 for the swing set to be fully contracted out. And just need to make sure Mr. Paoloni gets it if we get a second here.
Second.
Is this coming out of Parkland Trust, or is this coming out of?
Probably it's the easiest. I mean, it's a smaller amount.
Yeah.
So since Frederick's not here.
There's a $300,000 balance.
Yeah,
I asked this morning, just because I had a feeling
Yeah.
this question would come up.
I would say for this, we do that.
Yeah.
You can also do it out of fund balance, either or, correct, Jim?
Yeah.
I'd almost rather take it out of fund balance. There's a lot more money in that. Keep the 300,000 in Parkland Trust.
I don't
Come out
care
of the
either
B
way.
fund
I
balance.
agree.
yeah.
I agree.
It's coming out of, is it coming out of B or A?
Yeah.
Okay.
B.
Yep, it's coming out of B fund.
B?
B.
I have no objection.
Okay.
Okay,
So I moved it.
Motion, second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you.
So I'm talking to the highway superintendent. If Steve is too busy, he said he'd have no problem taking whatever you need down. So
Okay.
just get with him a day or so before you need it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you may not need the 25,000, we tell you, 'cause you only need
But we're doing
11,000.
up to, so.
Yeah, so you need up
we'll
to.
see.
I'm hoping we can theoretically.
Probably have to buy mulch and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
there's a
too.
lot.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the
We have a tight time frame, right? So,
Yes.
Yeah, locking in prices
Yeah.
always.
well, also the November installation you want to do on
No,
this?
I think safety is,
So the sooner the better, because we have safety concerns,
safety
okay?
concern,
Oh,
safety is very important.
What did you
on
say,
top of
November?
everything.
November is locked in, you said?
Yeah, everything for November is locked in,
Except the swing set.
because they're not putting that in just.
Okay.
But
But
remove
the old one
the
is
old
coming
one.
down.
Yes.
Right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a ceremony this Saturday at
10
the park,
o'clock.
right?
It's
10
okay.
o'clock for the
That's correct.
historical monument.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So is the park in condition to receive guests?
I believe it is. The mural is finished.
And knock on wood, no rain forecast between now and
It's
then,
not.
so.
Assessors
Well, for the
don't
first,
even
the
know.
first Saturday with no rain in the last 11 weeks?
Yeah.
Or 7 weeks, whatever it was.
7 it was.
The
It's
sign will
crazy.
be officially, Steve, I guess it goes up tomorrow. I know you put the post in for the sign, so the sign will be up tomorrow?
One until the day of.
Okay. And then I suggest you to put something to cover it, kind of like
Right.
we do with
Yes.
the
Right.
memorial on Route 9.
Yeah, we should cover it so that the anticipation builds every moment of the ceremony.
So go ahead and get the order in
Yeah.
Yes.
for this, okay?
Good. As far as the walking path, the running path, obviously that's the most expensive item. I'm going to get some estimates. Parkitects would like to do it, but Jess and I both discussed it, we don't have to use them for that. Any contractor can do it. Lehigh can do it, Neve can do it. So I'm gonna get a couple more estimates. to s-
Yeah, but make sure, you know, because that area is wet,
Yeah.
right, and can be very wet. You know, I do like, you know, the idea of having the multiple layers and compacted and all that to make sure that that is stable and
Okay.
takes care of the water drainage, so we don't want to go cheap on it, right, in the sense of getting a low bid or something. So let's make sure, you know, I like the drawing here, whether or not there could be a better way to do it, then you guys can look into
Okay.
it, but let's make sure we construct it right.
So Parkitects, as I understand, it's on state bid.
Okay, good.
So, anybody
Yeah,
else
that
who's
helps.
not on state
Yeah.
bid, you know, you'd have to,
Public bid,
I'm sorry?
then you'd have to either go to public bidding, or you could do,
So let's look at that, because then we want to build in the proper number into
Well,
the
we want it to
budget
be
for
s-
next year.
Right, and to also be safe. We don't want the thing to
Right.
sink.
Yeah.
Right.
Because ultimately, it's got to be ADA accessible, and
Correct.
the original design intent was to have it paved. So right now, we're trying to do it where, could we build the sub-base and have a stone
Correct.
dust, so you have a walking
Exactly.
surface, you're gonna have to be maintained.
No, I like that idea. I think
Until
it's
you can
a good
pave it.
approach.
You get good stone dust and soak it down as a concrete pattern.
Okay, so get on that and let's get back, because we do have our
Gotta maintain.
ongoing budget consideration.
And just so I'm clear, the November 13th is okay to tell them to
Yes.
install? Great. Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Steve, Round River Stones, or whatever. River Rounds?
I was trying to figure out what this discussion item meant.
We'll find out
It's for
soon.
Spook Hill Park, so they're
Oh,
gonna,
and he even brought props. Look at this.
He's gonna toss them to you, Bill, so.
you gotta catch
I
it.
saw them there.
Now you have
I almost-
glasses, you can be assured you won't get.
I almost tripped
Put 'em
over
right,
that.
put 'em on this table.
Put it right on the
Put it
table
down
there.
there. Put it down there.
Just don't,
You're gonna wanna look at it from overhead.
don't break the table.
So,
They're not too round, though.
Well, they aren't river
For
rats.
River Rock.
I am having
Let's amend
extreme
that.
difficulty in
Yeah.
sourcing the river rounds that we spoke of. And this is the alternative stone that I brought to look at that is readily available and local. River rounds come from eastern Connecticut. When I was in business doing the work, there was a number of places that I knew of to import from. But they're no longer in business. And, you know, I've been here about 15 years now, so. I've been online, probably spent close to 4 or 5 hours looking for a source for these things, and I can't find any. And if I do find something, it's gonna be some distance away. So you'd probably be looking at like a 4-hour trucking fee to bring the stuff in.
What is
So-
this for again?
This is for the median inside the island, the curbing island at Spook.
so where that new sign's gonna go,
Really?
Yeah,
that would be the fill for it. Right now, there's mulch down there.
yeah.
Why can't we go with just mulch?
It's not, it's in the proximity to the road, the mulch is gonna pick up all the dirt and stuff through the winter, and it's a high maintenance item as well. This here, you put it in, and for the most part, you forget it. You just gotta treat it for weeds now and then.
So what are they using on the median of Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie? Are you familiar? Because they pulled out, if you go up by Locust Grove, they pulled out a lot of the bushes,
Bushes and stuff,
and they
yeah.
put stone in there. Town of Poughkeepsie Highway did. They have,
Isn't that Tamp Stone or whatever it is?
I don't know what it is, but they, you know, they,
Home Depot has River Rock.
those medians require agreements with the local municipality to maintain, which, you know, Village of Fishkill tried it for a while and they gave up. Town of Poughkeepsie, now it looks like they're starting to give up, right? Marist College is still trying. They were still doing the weeding like a week ago, and it's almost November. And what I've noticed is Town of Poughkeepsie, in the area of Locust Grove, decided to put stone down rather than have the bushes in there. I think the trees are still there, but they put the stone down. So I'd be curious to see what type of stone that they have, and if they have that in stock, you know.
I could take a ride there tomorrow and see what you're talking about. What we had spoken about in our meetings was, you know, this here would, because of the proximity to the road, anything you plant
Yeah,
there
I get it.
is gonna die from salt. So what we had discussed was putting in the stone and then getting the the very large planter boxes that you could plant annual flowers in, and we could place them in and out of that area and store them inside through the winter months to give it some color than, for the summer months. But, I would planned on using the river rounds initially. Those are like a brown and beige color, and, these have a gray tone to them. But like I said, I haven't been able to source them anywhere. They do, they come from Connecticut, and I don't know where they're mining them from anymore.
I guess the question is it imperative that we put rocks down now, or can we just put a little more topsoil now, let it stay where it is, and try to get something in the spring?
You don't want to put topsoil in there, there's no point.
Well, I'm sorry, I meant mulch. So keep the mulch there, and then...
Just for the winter?
And then go through the winter time and try to get the stones in the spring, maybe.
There's no rush on it now. The
Right,
rush
that's
is to
my
get it
point.
ready for the sign.
Right.
Oh, for the sign, I would just put mulch down, just
Yeah.
for,
Well, it's already there.
we just have to,
there.
all we gotta
I
do
wasn't
is
aware
get
that
through
came down.
Saturday. Then we're good.
Bill, you weren't suggesting he go up and take the stone from up Poughkeepsie Way?
Certainly would not.
Oh, just
But I know some people that could tell you where they get it from,
Yeah.
But either way, I don't have an objection to whatever is most appropriate for that. I know nothing about this stuff.
Well, I'll take a look at what they're using in Poughkeepsie. It may be very similar to this if it's coming out of Trap Rock. Trap Rock is a lighter shade of gray. I think there's a
Just might be
song
nicer to
with that
put
title.
something
There is.
nicer in that cement, brown stones, sorry,
Yeah,
river round stones.
But I can take a look at that and see what it is and report back.
Yeah, and especially if there's no rush.
Just make it look nice for Saturday.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, it's already there.
Good.
Okay.
The post is mounted, and it's just a matter of slipping the sign over top.
Let me ask you this, how difficult was it to mount that post?
They had a pretty tough time digging there because of the soil type was very compacted and stony.
Because there's some other areas in the town that could use those historic placards.
Right.
And again, what was the name of the foundation again? The
Historical, oh, yeah, the...
Pomeroy? So Pomeroy obviously has the specs on how you mount, I mean, they're heavy.
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah, multiple
Well, we've been
page.
through it once now, and I do have a machine. I mean, it would be best if we had several of them to do. We have the machine with an auger on it. But
Okay.
it would have taken as much time to get the machine ready and move it
Yeah,
there
yeah,
as it
yeah.
did to dig the one hole by hand.
They had the auger out there this morning. The gas-powered auger, they had that
Yeah,
out there, and that didn't
I'm
work.
not talking about that. This is one that fits on the excavator.
All right, very good.
If I could add something here that we had discussed, but I didn't see come up here, was the budget transfer for the
Fire
truck
truck?
purchase.
Oh, yes.
The fire truck, right?
Yeah, that was from,
Or the
and I don't know if we can do that on the fly,
ambulance.
but I know the numbers, the budget line numbers.
It's coming out of fund balance, right?
No, he's got
He's got a line already.
a line.
Oh,
I've got the line numbers,
what was the total cost?
21.5.
And you bought it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so now what do we
Do
do?
you have it?
Just needed to move the money into the proper budget line to do that.
Did-
We're waiting for the paperwork to
Okay.
transfer, and then I'll go down and pick it up. But it would be transferring the 21.5 from B.7110.119 to B.7110.200.
Oh, it's within the same department.
Yeah, it's all
Well,
that.
it's a cross, though, of sections that requires board intervention.
Now, do you have the ability to get it lettered up? Have you talked to
Yes.
anybody about that?
Yeah, basically, I'm gonna put our door insignia on it.
Okay.
And what I was considering, I'm gonna get a price to have the red portion painted green.
Okay.
And just one of our door emblems on it, and I think that should be sufficient.
So I'll move to authorize the transfer.
21,500.
It's from like a 119 to 120. It's within the
Correct.
same.
Yep.
No,
119 to
119
To 200.
Say it again?
119 to 200.
119 to 200.
Yeah.
Move that.
Is it 200 or is it one?
Yeah, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thanks, Steve, and
Okay.
thanks for following up on that right away.
Let's get at least 10 years out of that one.
At least.
Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be nice if we could get it out of the weather, too.
Don't throw stones.
We can talk about that.
Not tonight.
So we have another?
I think we covered the other two,
We
right?
covered that already,
Yeah, we
right?
And number
did
six,
the
it's
order
up
there.
off.
So,
We're
a
done.
motion to go into executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice and counsel and
I just
litigation.
have one comment
Yeah, before
first.
we,
Oh, okay,
Go
that's
ahead,
fine.
you want to go?
before we go into executive session, if we can handle any items that we have now before we forget, that would be good. Al, I'll yield to you, go ahead.
So all I want to do is just give a quick update on the pickleball and tennis courts. So just to let people know, the tennis courts were supposed to be lined today. Hopefully they're available to be played on either Friday or Saturday this weekend, weather permitting. And then the pickleball courts will hopefully be starting to be lined tomorrow, so Tuesday and Wednesday. And hopefully they'll be available on Friday and Saturday. We'll send out notification. But basically, the entire tennis courts have been resurfaced. So again, all striping. Pickleball, what they need is one more coat in the green section. They were going to do that today, and they'll be able to stripe tomorrow. So it's coming along, and hopefully we'll have some kind of grand opening ceremony, but we expect Friday or Saturday this weekend.
Good.
And Al will be performing
I will.
pickleball.
I did, I actually played.
Oh, okay. I missed it, I'm sorry.
Want to mention the emergency preparedness?
Yeah, a couple items here. Wednesday evening is the CIS preparedness training here at Town Hall, 6:30 doors, 7 o'clock training. It's already sold out, basically.
Waiting list.
There's a waiting list of 20-something people on it.
There is a waiting list,
Yes.
as
Yeah.
I asked you.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So there's another one in Beacon on November 1st, which we've been telling people they're welcome to go to that one. There's one in the town of Fishkill on the same day, but in the daytime, which is an Office for the Aging presentation. But ours is, we may have to consider having another one in December or whatever, because we have a waiting list of 23 people. So I think it's booked to 90. We have to reconfigure this room, whatever the max of this room is. Plus, we'll be using the hallways for the Medical Reserve Corps, and Dutchess County Animal Response Team will be here as well. So that's Wednesday evening at 6:30. So it is of the utmost importance that an agent of the town of Wappinger ensure that this nature preserve project is moving forward between now and November 9th. I understand the ball's in their court right now because they're in the process of contracting with a contractor, but, you know, this weather is going to change very quickly, and there are, you know, hoses exposed on both sides of that driveway and a hydrant that's being utilized for drinking water.
So Tim, can Jonathan or somebody look at that? Or John Bodendorf, okay. Is he feeling better?
Yeah.
Okay, so then have him tail this, okay.
Now, we cannot be in a
And
position.
then report to me?
Yeah, we cannot be in a position where we have frozen water lines and we have, you know, God forbid there's an emergency on that property, and now we have, you know, a hydrant out of service and a public health emergency.
Remember the tall trees.
Well, I don't want to reflect on that one, but
We don't want
we've
that
been there
again.
before, and we don't want that to happen again. And we've done, I think at this point, we've done what we need to do, but I do understand that, you know, they are booking their contractor and working it out, but we got to lean on them a little here to get this done for, before it gets cold out.
I understand they have a based on what Christian had said, was they had a contractor and they're looking at shop drawings. So they're at least, they've selected a contractor.
I get it, they got to get a shovel in the dirt, though, real quick.
Did they sign a contract with you, Jim?
What's that?
Did they sign a contract with you yet?
Not yet. They just sent me something back this afternoon, but it still doesn't address the payout. So we could discuss it more in executive session.
Last year, the town board authorized up to $500 for the town of Wappinger First Responder Awards. I forgot to bring this up in previous meetings, but I do have the receipts for the awards and everything that was purchased for that. We had a lot more group recognition this year, so I'd like the board to allow for that up to $500 again.
Reimbursement to you?
Yeah, if I can make a motion.
I'll make a motion
All
to
right, go ahead.
reimburse up to 500.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
And the last item I have, we talked probably a year or more ago about the new benches that were installed at the Palmetier Park. The board authorized the expense for those benches to come out of Parkland Trust at the time. However, an oversight was that we never received the invoice. I'd gotten a quote, but I never got the invoice. It's $3,400. We already approved this, I believe, by resolution, but I just want the board to be fully aware that that invoice now has been received.
Okay.
I'm going to submit it to accounting, so if you see it come up, it's from that discussion we had. I think it was the beginning of this year, so that's coming through at $3,400. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, then I have a motion for, go in executive session for the purposes of obtaining legal advice of counsel on Downey litigation and on the nature preserve.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. We'll be back.